I got the email around midnight, Qatar time. We'd just gotten off shift. Hot, dust in the nose, the kind of exhaustion that makes you forget you're even hungry. I turned on the Wi-Fi to check my messages. Was hoping for a voice note from my nephew. It was his birthday, he just turned 7. Instead, I saw a message from Becky. Subject line, let's be adults about this. No greeting, no name, just 3 lines. I filed for divorce. I transferred the money from our joint account. Jeremy moved in. I read it again, as if maybe I missed something. Closed the laptop. No anger, no shock, just empty. That kind of empty you feel when something you've suspected for a long time finally confirms itself. I showered, changed, and went to dinner. No one noticed anything. One guy was talking about how his wife sent him homemade cookies. Another showed off a picture of his daughter taking her first steps. I just ate in silence. On base, nobody pries unless you invite them in. That's one of the unspoken rules. Talk if you want, stay quiet if you don't. People respect that. When I got back to my bunk, I opened my email and typed one word. Understood. No punctuation, no extra words. Hit send. Closed the laptop for good. It didn't feel like defeat. It felt like confirmation. Like something that needed to end had finally ended. And honestly, I'd seen it coming. 6 months earlier, she started to change. Not suddenly, but piece by piece. Short replies. Nights out with the girls. Friends I'd never heard of. Her phone never left her side. New passcode. Gym membership. New dresses. New perfume. Like she was slowly becoming someone else. Someone she couldn't be around me. I didn't cause a scene. Didn't go through her messages. Didn't sit her down for dramatic talks. I just watched. And quietly I started preparing. I rented a small storage unit on the edge of town. Moved over the documents, mine and my mom's, her old silver, my grandfather's watch, copies of our diplomas, birth certificates, the deed to the house. The VA loan was in my name, which meant the house technically was too. I had added her to the paperwork later because it felt right at the time, but legally it was mine. I knew that. She didn't. I opened a separate account at another bank, not for secrets, just to redirect a portion of my pay. A small amount. Nothing that would stand out. I didn't know how this would all end, but I had a feeling it wasn't going to end well. At the airport, when I left for deployment, she hugged me. Said, "Take care of yourself, okay?" Same flat voice. No tears. Like she was saying goodbye to a neighbor she barely knew. I remembered that feeling. It was the same one you get in combat when you realize you're running low on ammo and no one's coming. You don't panic. You start counting your steps, and you get ready. I didn't know exactly what she would do, but I knew when she did it, I'd be ready. I didn't tell anyone that night, not even Wilson, my bunkmate, even though if anyone had the right to know, it was him. He once pulled me out under fire near the outer perimeter in Kandahar, but this was different. This wasn't the kind of situation where you yell medic and hope someone shows up. This was the kind where you quietly pull yourself back together, piece by piece, and pretend everything's fine. I woke up the next morning before everyone else. Didn't sleep. Thoughts spinning in circles. I hit the shower, cleaned up, and showed up to breakfast like nothing had happened. Guys were talking about a new shipment of cigarettes at the PX. One was arguing about whether instant noodles counted as real food. Another was griping that his wife had sent him a grocery list like he wasn't across the world. Everyone had their own little world going. So did I, at least on the outside. I barely looked at my phone that day. No email, no messages. I knew if Becky sent anything else, it wouldn't be an apology. More likely something like, "You'll need to sign the papers," or "Let's keep this civil." But I wasn't going to respond either way. The truth is, in the last few months I'd already been living at a distance. I still called her, still sent little videos from the base. She'd reply politely, but never with warmth. "Oh, that's cool, you must be tired, nothing much new here." That was about it. No curiosity, no follow-ups. And me? I'd started to feel like a background character in her life. a voice from somewhere far away, a task she was slowly growing tired of. I wasn't angry with her, honestly. People change. Expectations shift. She didn't sign up for this life. I remember her saying when we were first dating, "I don't know if I can be an army wife. That's not really who I am." But she tried. We both did. Only difference is, I kept trying. She didn't. Sometime around August, she joined a gym. Said she wanted to get in shape. I supported her, got her some good earbuds, joked that she'd be outrunning me soon. But I noticed things. New outfits, new perfume, new makeup. And not once did I see sweat on her clothes. Not once. I did the laundry. I knew. It was a show, an image. Earlier than that, I overheard her on speakerphone with a friend while I was in the other room packing my bag. Harmless stuff at first, normal catch-up. Then I heard her say, "You know he's never really here, right? He's always gone. Always." Then silence and laughter. That one stuck with me. I didn't bring it up, didn't ask who she meant. I didn't need her to say it out loud. I already knew. Then came Jeremy. At first, just a name in passing. "We have this new tech at the clinic. Kind of weird, but funny." I didn't think anything of it. Then he started showing up in stories more often. "Jeremy says the coffee here is disgusting. Jeremy thinks I'm too serious." And on and on. But it wasn't just the mentions. It was the tone, light, free, the way she used to sound when she talked about me. One night I got curious and looked up the clinic's hours. Not out of jealousy, just something didn't sit right. Her shifts ended at 6, but she wasn't getting home until nearly 9, always with an excuse. Girls' night, helping a patient, closing up late. Once or twice, sure. 5 nights a week? No. Again, I didn't say a word. I just opened another account. This time with a federal credit union for service members. Set up a direct deposit, small amount. Legal, clean. I didn't know exactly why I was doing it. I just knew I needed to. And then I found myself making a checklist of what to move into storage. Not just documents, photos, my parents' letters, my grandfather's medals, an external hard drive with backups. I was already collecting everything I wanted to keep, really keep. She had no idea. No one did. And now when that email came, I was ready. Not because I saw it coming, but because I didn't let myself stay blind. 2 weeks after Becky's email, I got another notification, this time while I was eating in the DFAC. $88,500 withdrawn from our joint account. I set my fork down, pulled out my phone, logged in, checking. Savings, both nearly empty. The joint checking had $22.37 left. Our savings, the one we built for nearly a decade, was gone, completely drained. At first I thought it was fraud. I mean, it had to be, right? No way she'd just take everything. Not like that. I excused myself, walked out of the dining hall, found a quiet hallway near the comms tent, logged in again just to be sure. Same result. Then I checked the transfer history. She'd been moving money slowly since the week I left. A few hundred here, 1,000 there. And then one large transfer after another, starting the day after my plane took off. The last one had been processed just hours earlier. I stood there for a while, not saying anything, not moving. A couple guys walked past laughing, heading toward the phones to talk to their wives and kids. Another was pacing outside, showing off baby photos to his buddy. Life, moving forward. Mine felt like it had just been gutted. That's when Wilson showed up. He didn't say much, just leaned against the wall next to me, sipping a Powerade. "Alvarez said you looked like you saw a ghost at dinner," he said, not looking at me. "Something up?" I don't normally share personal stuff, not in that kind of detail. But Wilson was different. He'd pulled me out of a mess before. I trusted him, so I just said it. "My wife emptied our accounts, moved her boyfriend into our house, filed for divorce last week while I was out on patrol." He didn't react the way people usually do. "No damn, man, I'm so sorry." "No, you'll bounce back, you'll find someone better." Just one simple question. "What's your plan?" I shrugged. "Not sure yet." He nodded, took another sip, then pushed off the wall. "Well, let me know if you need anything." And he walked away. That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay in my bunk staring at the underside of the frame above me, listening to some guy 2 beds over snore. I didn't feel like a husband, didn't feel like a soldier. I felt like a man whose whole life had been reduced to a blinking cursor on an empty screen. Around 3 a.m., I got up, quietly, pulled out my laptop and connected to the base Wi-Fi. I logged into our home security system, something she probably forgot I could still access. The first thing I saw was Jeremy, walking our dog, using my coffee mug. He looked comfortable, familiar, like he belonged there, on the couch I paid for, in the house I bought with my VA loan. And Becky? She looked relaxed, like someone who'd already rewritten the story of her life without me in it. I didn't rage, didn't smash anything. I just watched how cleanly I'd been erased, and then without hesitation I opened another tab and started quietly putting pieces into motion. I kept watching the camera feed every night for a week, not out of obsession, more like confirmation. I wanted to see if there was even a shred of doubt in her, some flicker of discomfort. There wasn't. They were living like I never existed, like I'd just packed up and disappeared one day and Jeremy stepped in, no questions asked. Same couch, same kitchen table, same dog, now answering to someone else's voice. Becky was wearing my old hoodie in one of the clips, the gray one with the torn sleeve I used to sleep in after long shifts. That detail stuck with me more than I expected. She used to tell me it smelled like base camp and detergent. She hated it. Now she was curled up in it next to someone else. I didn't feel angry, that's what surprised me. No screaming inside. No urge to call and demand explanations. Just clarity. This wasn't about love anymore. It was about ground. About what was mine, what was taken, and what I wasn't going to lose quietly. So I started pulling files. The house, for example. Becky always thought it was ours, but the VA loan was under my name only. She wasn't eligible. I had added her to the deed when we got married because that's what you do when you think something is going to last. Legally, that meant something. And more importantly, it meant I could undo it. Before I deployed, I met with an attorney just in case. Friend of my dad's. Old school guy, no nonsense. I had him quietly draft the steps to remove her name from the deed if it came to that. No drama, just forms. I remember him looking at me across the table and asking, "You think she'll pull something?" I said, "I don't know." He said, "Then we'll prepare like she will." Turns out she did. The house was one part. But there was also my storage unit. The one across town. The one she didn't know about. Everything important was in there. My grandfather's watch. My mom's silver set. Family photos. Copies of military paperwork. Deployment records. A copy of our marriage certificate. A printed version of our prenup, which she probably thought I'd lost. Yeah, we had a prenup. Signed before the wedding, back when she still wanted to keep things clear and simple. She probably forgot. I didn't. The bank records, too. I downloaded every transaction she made since I left, labeled and dated. I created a folder on a secure drive backed up twice, one on a physical device, one in the cloud under a different account name. I wasn't planning revenge. I was preparing facts, the kind that hold up in court. And then there was the separate account I'd been quietly building for months. It wasn't huge, but it was mine. Clean, untouched. It meant I wouldn't be starting from zero. One night I pulled up the live feed again. Jeremy was standing in my kitchen, barefoot, drinking from the glass I brought back from Germany in 2016. He put it down, then walked over and opened the drawer where I used to keep tools. He knew the layout. That's when I knew something else. He didn't just move in after I left. He'd been there before. It was all too natural, too lived in. He wasn't new to that house. He was just finally out in the open. That changed things, because now I wasn't just dealing with betrayal. I was dealing with something planned, intentional. And that meant I wouldn't just be leaving quietly either. By the time the second month of deployment rolled around, Becky still hadn't responded to my one-word reply. No follow-up. No explanation, no questions, just silence. And that was fine. She thought it was over. She thought the house was hers, the money was hers, and the story was hers to rewrite however she wanted. She was wrong on all 3 counts. I reached out to my lawyer again. Same guy, Dan Reeves. He used to work military claims before he retired into private practice. He knew how to keep things quiet. I scheduled a secure call from base, 15 minutes. That's all I needed. "Did you file the paperwork I left with you?" I asked. There was a pause. "You sure you want to go through with it?" I didn't hesitate. "File it." Dan sighed. "All right. I'll start the process this week. House deed first, then we'll deal with the financials." He didn't ask for the full story. He didn't need it. The details were in the paper trail. The trust Becky broke wasn't emotional. That had already worn thin over the last couple years. The real betrayal was logistical, cold. She moved strategically. She waited until I was out of reach. She used access I had given her in good faith. It wasn't spontaneous. It was engineered. But what she didn't understand was that I wasn't the kind of man who panics when a wall falls. I rebuild, quietly, deliberately. And when the foundation is mine, there's nothing anyone can take from me that I haven't already let go of. The next time I logged into the camera system, something caught my eye. It was small, barely noticeable. Jeremy's car wasn't in the driveway. Instead, it was parked across the street in front of the neighbor's house. A little detail. One Becky wouldn't think mattered. But to me, it meant one thing. She knew what she was doing wasn't clean, even if she convinced herself otherwise. If she were proud of it, if she believed she had the right, that car would have been in the driveway like it belonged. But hiding it? That was instinct. Guilt in its simplest form. That night, I reviewed every motion-activated clip saved since I'd left. And somewhere in late June, 2 weeks before I deployed, I saw it. Jeremy, in the backyard, letting our dog out. He was already there, while I was still home. There's something about betrayal that's hard to describe when it's not loud. No screaming, no door slamming. Just this quiet corrosion, like rust under paint. You don't see it until the metal gives way. I didn't tell anyone in the unit. There was no point. What would they say? "Sorry, man? Want me to beat the guy up when we're back stateside?" That wasn't the solution. I wasn't looking for justice. I wasn't looking for revenge. I was focused on structure, on facts, on what could be proven, filed, and sealed. I sent Dan the security footage, the bank records, the prenup copy, the signed transfer authorizations from Becky's withdrawals. He said nothing for a full minute. Finally, "She's going to be surprised you were this thorough." "She shouldn't be," I said. And that was it. No emotion, just data. I'd spent my life following protocol. I wasn't about to stop now. Becky didn't know it yet, but the house was already being pulled out from under her, brick by legal brick. She thought she'd won. She didn't realize the match had only just started. I didn't tell Becky I was coming home early. Deployment cut short, not by much, just a few weeks, but enough to matter. Our CO pulled me aside, said I had a solid record, enough rotations under my belt, and they were cycling people out by seniority. He handed me a packet and said, "You'll be stateside in 10 days. I nodded, didn't smile, just said, "Understood." That word had become something of a habit. I didn't text Becky, didn't warn her. I wanted to see what my life looked like now, unfiltered. Not the version she curated through email silence and drained accounts. The real one. The moment wheels touched down, I felt it. Not excitement, not anger, just readiness. I rented a car, drove past the house without stopping. Jeremy's truck was parked in the driveway, not across the street this time. So either they weren't hiding anymore or they never were. Not really. Curtains were drawn, porch light on. The yard was a mess. I'd kept that lawn clean for 10 years. Clipped, edged, straight lines like I'd been taught back in basic. Now it looked like no one cared. I didn't go in, didn't knock. I called Dan from the car. "I'm back. You want to file everything today?" "Yes." "All right. We'll start with an official notice of property dispute. The house stays frozen until it's resolved. She can't sell, sublet, or transfer it without your signature." Good. I spent the night at a motel outside of town. Quiet place. No questions at the desk. Just a key card and silence. I sat on the edge of the bed for a long time. Not thinking, just sitting. Next morning I drove to the storage unit. My lock was still there. Still mine. Inside. Everything intact. The watch, the photos, the old letters, everything that mattered, untouched. That's when I finally felt something. Not relief, not pride, just confirmation. I hadn't lost everything. I'd simply let go of what no longer respected me. 3 days later, Dan filed the challenge to the property rights. I gave him everything. Dates, signatures, the VA loan documents. Turns out Becky never added anything to the mortgage. Her name was just on the deed, which, legally, could be reversed with the right motion and the right proof of intent. We had both. The prenup sealed it. I let the process move quietly. No confrontation, no phone calls, no scenes. Let her come home to a letter taped to the door, court-issued, signed by a judge. Notice of restriction. Pending asset review. Effective immediately. She tried to call that night. I watched the screen light up. Becky. I let it ring. A minute later, a text. You could have at least talked to me first. Talked? The same way she talked when she filed for divorce by email? The same way she moved another man into my house without saying a word? There was nothing left to discuss. This wasn't revenge. It was correction. A realignment of what was hers and what was mine. Later that week, I went back to the house. Not to go inside, just to stand across the street and look at it. The roof needed cleaning. Gutters were overflowing. The place looked smaller somehow. Funny. You build something with someone for over a decade, and in the end it takes less than a year for it to start falling apart without you. I turned the key in the ignition, pulled away slowly, still not angry, just done. The divorce was finalized 6 weeks later. No court drama, no depositions, just documents, just silence. Becky didn't contest anything. Maybe because she knew, maybe because she understood she'd already lost the only part that mattered, my willingness to care. The house reverted to me. She moved out quietly, no notice, no goodbye. Dan called one morning and said simply, "She's gone. You're clear to re-enter." I didn't go back right away. I let the place sit, empty, quiet, waiting, like it needed to exhale without being watched. Instead, I drove north, found a cabin rental near the Idaho line. No neighbors, no traffic, just air that felt like it hadn't been breathed by anyone else. I stayed there 3 weeks, didn't tell anyone. Woke up early, made coffee, walked trails without a phone in my pocket, did nothing, and for the first time in a long time it felt like enough. Back in town, I closed the joint accounts, shut down the camera system, sold the furniture. Everything she and Jeremy had touched, gone. Not out of spite, out of hygiene. A clean space doesn't hold shadows. I left the house staged but empty, then sold it. Got a good offer too. Market was high and the VA equity worked in my favor. Funny how the same signature she used to steal from me ended up speeding the sale. Small victories, silent ones. She sent me one final email, a long one this time. No subject line. Somewhere in the middle of it she wrote, "I never thought you'd go this far. I thought you'd fight for me." I read that line twice, then closed the email. Didn't reply. I live in a smaller place now. 1 bedroom, no shared accounts, no dog, no framed wedding photos. But it's mine. Everything inside, mine. Everything outside, calm. Sometimes people ask if I'm bitter. I say no. You don't get bitter about a fire. You clear the ashes and rebuild, smarter, quieter, stronger. And next time, you install the smoke detectors yourself.